Okay. Anybody hear me? There's my hand. Yep, I'm kind of on there. Okay, so I got my phone going, filming, and I got a computer next to me, so I got a little bit of a 5-second delay from when I talk, but sounds like my mic's picking you all up. So. Okay. Taking the headphones out for a second. So, here we go. How's everybody doing? I see comments. That's great. Anything we want to go over? Or do we just want to go like I said, and we'll just do a run through of my board, and you guys can all get an idea of how I use it, and then maybe you can springboard into other questions. We'll do the board because you guys are probably going to take a while to type up answers. So here we go. And I realized about 2 seconds before going live, Facebook Live does not have a way to do landscape mode, so we're kind of stuck with this crummy picture view. So I might have to move the board around or the camera around or something. But now I can see on the computer. See if I gotta move it over a little bit. Stinking delay. Yeah, my phone's really high up, so it's hard to use that as a monitor. But here we go. So basically, as you can see, I got a whole lot of crap going on. Start with the backside. Power in here. Got a nice little power con jack that goes to the supply on the back. This is actually just a 5-volt USB port, so charge my phone on the run, and I have a handy cable to charge the hot hand ring if I needed to. This is my data port, so I have the 2 hubs and the Soulman connected to a USB hub that goes to here, so when I need to edit everything, I just hook in there, pop up the editors I need, and good to go. Guitar input out to amp. Amp effects loop send, return, and amp channel. We'll just do a quick on the bottom. This has changed a little bit. I thought I was done and then I had to change a bunch of stuff. So yeah, I have the 2 hubs here underneath the board, and amazingly 1 Eventide Power Max powering the whole thing, and there's enough juice that I could almost do this entire setup a second time. So really good supply. I'm loving it. Lots of daisy chains. I still actually haven't opened tap yet. And then there's the USB 5-volt to the charge. Here's that hub. And you see everything up there for my connections. A mess of wires. Got audio, got MIDI, got TRS, got TRRS, got USB, got power. It was a nightmare to wire. Something like 4 hours, 5 hours, with not including pre-planning. It was fun. Let me see. You guys just all taking this in so far. Get myself a little better in frame. So from guitar input, we come up, hit the tuner first, and then obviously to the C4, then the Gemini, then we sneak down here to the Ultrawave, which this would be a beta. That would also be a beta. I'm proud of that. This I got right before I started working for Source Audio, so they gave me first dibs, so haha, I got number 1. And then, again, I got first dibs. And they said they had a 0, so I was like, yeah, let's do 0. Because nobody's going to have that one. Yeah, from there, into the LA Lady. And then we go back out to the amp, and then on the return, we hit the EQ first, as I kind of use it as a volume boost for my entire signal. So it just pushes everything up high, post gain, and then hit the POG. Yes, besides the tuner and one other thing in here, the only non-Source Audio pedal on here, and the only audio producing effect not Source Audio on here. Roger's heard it from me many times. I said we need to make a POG killer. Yeah, from there we go into the Nemesis, into the Collider, Ventris. I love having everything chopped up at the end, so Vertigo's at the very end, and then back out to the amp. So, excuse me. Yeah, I know everybody thinks I'm overkill for having all three of these on the board, but it's worked pretty good. Typically, my setup, I like using one scene for a song. I don't like loading multiple scenes throughout the song. I did that starting off when I first got into the system, and all I had was the Vertigo, the LA, and the Nemesis, and it worked fine for a while. And I was also using a Disaster Area controller at the time, and then I got the Soul Man and kind of made things a little more simplistic. It let me do more than just switching scenes on the fly, to where I could get more on-the-fly control for individual pedals. So I went that way. So yeah, I just use one scene per song. So typically, depending on what I'm doing in that song, Ventris is usually my primary reverb, just so I have spillover when I'm switching from song to song. For background information, I play in church on Sundays. I'm actually playing this Sunday. So after this is done, I'll be practicing again. So yeah, that's my last. I like keeping that on, so I have the spillover when I go from song to song, so it stays in single mode for the most part. But throwing this on and adding an extra possible 2 reverbs, I've started getting into a little more experimental sounds on here. You guys might have seen it. If you look up Gibbs 210 on the Neuro app, you'll see quite a few of my presets on there. One of my favorite ones is Sci-Fi Echoes. I think you guys have seen. It's Offspring with Echo Verb, and it does some really crazy things, and I never really got a chance to use it in a church setting because it's a little too wacky for anything other than just straight up ambient stuff. So now having this, I get into some of the freakier sounds. Same with the Nemesis. I've been using the Helix engine more now. Reverse I've always used a bit, but it was a little... I had at one point a setup on here where I used the Echo Verb as a secondary delay. It worked. It's harder to do it than just having this as a dedicated back and forth. So then, yeah, I'll typically, for those kind of songs when I'm using crazier sounds, this will be running just basic delay and reverb, so I've got something to switch to quick on the fly. Anyway, we'll go over to the... Let me check questions quick. Taking off. My 4 cable split is basically these 4 are preamp, and that they're all connected to this hub. So I split the hubs, so I got pre and post. Just trying to isolate with all the daisy chains and that. I figured it's best to isolate everything power-wise as much as I can. So these 4 are preamp and the tuner, and then EQ2. The whole top row and the POG are effects loop. So that's all that. And then power wise, I can't remember how I did this. I did tape these off some, so that kind of helps me somewhat. I think I have 1 hub and these on a daisy chain. Oh no, Gemini, LA Lady, Ultrawave are all on a daisy chain. The tuner's isolated because I would have issues with sharing power with that I've ran into, but everything else is pretty clean sharing power. Let me see. I had it memorized at one point, and then I forgot how I did it, and I don't really want to bring up... I have a nice little cheat sheet where I keep everything, but it's on my phone, and I don't really want to close out Facebook Live to look at it. I do know these 2 are sharing power, and then these 2 are sharing power, and then I think I've got the EQ2, the POG, and the air step sharing power, and then it's the Soul Man, the 2 hubs, and the Reflex on a daisy chain cable from what's the names? True Tone. Used to be Visual Sound. Love that company. I got a few of their old Visual Sound pedals. This all replaced them, but still great pedals. Anyway, we'll go to the MIDI part of this, the MIDI aspect. This is where it gets interesting. So my old setup, I was running 2 Soulmans. Anybody who's got a Soulman has tried getting fancy with it knows there's no MIDI through capability. So I couldn't just daisy chain the 2 in and go out. So I had a MIDI merge box sitting underneath right here. The other problem, if you've gotten into Source Audio and tried phantom power over MIDI, we unfortunately don't do it. So I had, let me dig it up here, I think it's quickly accessible. It's sitting on my shelf of goodies up here somewhere. Or it's not. Anyway, it's a DIY pedal I built that has a disaster area smart switch in it so that I could control my amp by MIDI, and then this has a relay bypass that I threw in it, and I also put the MIDI mod on it. So now you'll see this red jack over here. That's for remote switching. That would go into the old disaster area that sat right here. And then I did my amp switching and the POG switching through there. And then I had basically 2 2-button foot switches like you would get for these guys. One here, and then one went to the Soulman and one went to the secondary. Did away with that when I got this guy because it had all that built in. So when I got that, I had more room. So now the MIDI chain goes, I got rid of the merge box too. I'm getting on a tangent, I know, sorry. So now it goes Soulman into the Reflex, into the Air Step, which also is like Soulman, and it has 2 MIDI outs. So great product, I'm liking it so far. Battery powered, by the way, or internal battery. So I don't have power on right now, and there goes my water. But fun. Supposedly it'll last a month on the battery. It's also got a mobile app and Bluetooth. So it's been nice when I realize I programmed something wrong and I need to change it, and I can quick grab the phone at practice and reprogram it. Whereas I got to bring a computer for this. But they both have their strengths and weaknesses. Obviously I have a display here, I got nothing here, so they work together pretty well. And then from there I go out the one to the 2 hubs, and I go out the other to the POG, and then the POG hits back into the Soulman, so I can control the Soulman with this, and then this can control that. So simpler MIDI setup than what I had with the merge box and all the jumping around and everything. And then for the Reflex, get it back more in frame here, I'm using all 3 of the 1/4 inch outs. This one goes straight to the Nemesis, as I mostly program it as my volume pedal. So I have my volume control there. And then the other 2 go to the 2 hubs. So I don't have to use MIDI CCs. I can go over the hub inputs, make it a little quicker and easier to program stuff if I need to without having to dig into all the CC messages. And then the hot hand currently goes into the preamp hub. I haven't made much use of it yet. Sorry, I'm not Nathan. I'm not Mr. Navarro. I'm not the Wabba Wabba. And then that goes into the Soulman so that I can program MIDI with the hot hand. I just haven't really gotten into it yet. Trying to support the product. It's just definitely out of my comfort zone. Let me see where we're at. MIDI CCs for something to bring in and out different. Ooh, you guys are flying in with questions now. Okay, I'll get into my asking about MIDI CCs and the Soulman. Sorry, my power block here is in a stupid spot. I have a lot of extension cords going every which direction for all the lighting and computers and everything else right now. And it's just a mess. And that probably just dropped in frame. Try not to get my big ugly head in here. All the clicking, all them relays testing out. Turn this guy on. So, you'll see I'm in panel mode right now. This is my set list for Sunday, just 4 songs. I typically live in panel mode right now till I can come up with a better system. But, excuse me, I do program scene mode. I have all my songs that I've programmed over the months in here. You'll see a nice list. But I program everything in there. In the Soulman editor, I've changed everything from recalling PCs to recalling macros. So I have macros programmed for the hubs are on the same channel. They're MIDI channel 1. So I send MIDI channel 1. They both load to the correct scene on each unit. So it's not a divided thing. Like I said, I like to keep everything to one scene. So keeping them on the same channel makes that easy. So I'll do a macro to send message to the 2 of them, the reflex, and the POG. The air step's a little different. I can program exactly what MIDI messages it's listening to. It doesn't even have to require the it doesn't have a dedicated MIDI channel to it, how it works. So I can just program any MIDI channel. So to make it easy, I have it set up to send, when it receives on MIDI 1, corresponding preset to the hubs. It loads the correct channel in here. You see the green flashing, that shows which bank I'm on. There's 5 presets on this right now, so for now it's working for Sundays when I'm only doing 4 songs. So I'll program that accordingly. So when I'll go back in panel mode here. See, I'm on 1 now. It just jumped over to 3 because that's where I have it programmed. That's on 4. That's on 2. So that's how that works. MIDI clock is also programmed on here for all the songs, both in scene mode and panel mode. You've probably heard this from me if you are on Gear Page. I've been on Jesse for a while on things he can do with the Soulman to make it better. MIDI clock and how it's independent is one of them. But yeah, so this is why I live in panel mode, because once you switch to panel mode, MIDI clock shuts off if you only have it turned on for scene mode. So panel mode it is, so I'll program my set list for a Sunday that way and just switch right through everything. So then you'll see I've got my 4. This is basically how I have it set up. This is my tap tempo at all times. And for the most part, these 3 or 4 really, stay the same. My wah, basically when this is on, it's telling Reflex that to go to my channel for controlling my wah pedal preset on the C4. And when I turn it off, it goes back to volume control on the Nemesis. And then the EQ, you'll see up here, that's just changing channels. So basically I have 2 presets that I'm using right now. Time is not on my side ever, so I haven't really delved deep with the EQ2 on setting up some custom stuff yet. But I have preset 1 where channel 1's flat, and the second channel is set for my solo boost. But because of how Hub works with saving, it doesn't save which channel. It always defaults to channel 1, kind of like the LA Lady with using an external switch for Cascade. It always defaults to both channels on. I have a way around that I will tell you about. That's how I've used it for years. So channel 1 is, first preset is channel 1's flat. Second preset is identical to this, but I just flip the channels around. So then channel 1 is now my solo boost. So if I have a song that I start off where I want the solo boost on for some lead work, I go with that preset, and then I go with the other preset for that. So then this is just my remote way of switching channels. And then the POG. I have 2 presets I live by on the POG. This one's my big organ sound, and this one's just the volume swell. I honestly only use the volume pedal more for volume adjustments and to turn myself down when I'm not playing. I don't like staying glued to my pedal board at all times. If you haven't, but if you ever seen some live streams when I'm playing, I'm moving around a lot. So not being glued to a volume pedal, I love, and I've always just loved how the volume swell on the Pog has worked. And it's polyphonic. This is monophonic, so it doesn't. I can kind of get it to work, but I gotta be a little more calculated in my use. So Pog still lives. So that's that for these. Down here is my song-specific more controls, whereas these are kind of more general. Typically, this switch is controlling the amp channel, so it'll go from my clean channel to my dirty channel. Amp, if you want to know, is a Mesa Boogie dual rectifier Tremaverb. Yes, not a church amp, but boy does it rip. I will take it over a Vox. I've had a Vox. I sold the Vox. Most times this switch is, I don't know if the lights will let you see, but it's programmed to control the cascade mode on here. So as you just heard me say, you can't save whether the second channel is on and off if you're doing a cascade preset. In case you guys don't know, I'm getting ahead of myself. You have two dirt channels in the LA Lady. So I typically have it set up. My primary one is the, I can't think of the name of it now, the Vera Screamer, which is a Nobles ODR clone. That's my primary dirt. It's usually sitting about here on the gain, so it's just a light dirt. And then if I want extra dirt, but I don't want fire-breathing Mesa distortion, I'll kick that on, and that brings on the, what is it? Peppermint Fuzz or something like that. I can't remember what we named it. It's a clone from Analog Man Fuzz, now that I'm thinking about it. So I'll kick that on, then I'll have two dirts going. Now you heard me say that it doesn't save if one's on or off, it saves both on primarily. So my way around is programming a CC message to control the input-output routing. Most of the time it's just for that. I have it set up right now where it's actually controlling, you'll see up here it's switching on the Nemesis, and what else was it doing? I think it was yeah, now I can see. Switching on the Gemini as well. So that's one example. That's for that song. I've got some other songs where I do a lot more crazier stuff, where I've got a lot more multiple things switching on the fly, and we'll do some interesting stuff there. Okay, so that's about my MIDI control. So basically my foot lives down here for the most part. Sometimes I'm reaching up here. Sometimes I have enough space left where I can program a dedicated bypass for the stuff up here. A lot of times this switch is usually programmed to, you know, turn Nemesis off and the delay side of the collider on, or same vice versa with the Ventris. I'll have some presets where I have dual delay on here, which is nice. So basically I try to save top row stuff for here where my foot can reach this stuff fairly easily. Alrighty. If I didn't mention it before, I am all mono. If I did stereo, this would get real complicated really fast. Let me see what you guys are saying. Thank you for my explanation on the macros. I didn't really dive super deep in that, but you kind of got the gist of it. Okay, volume control on the Nemesis and not the EQ2. I haven't really dug too much in with the EQ2, but really, like I said, this is basically the only reason this preset is on is because I do use the noise gate. I use the noise gate there and here. I don't think I've turned it on the Ultrawave just because I have it here. So I have a noise gate in front of the amp and after the amp. I've just always had the Nemesis set up this way because the default control for expression is the input volume. So it'll automatically zero out where there's nothing going into the Nemesis, or it'll go to where it's whatever my input level is, and then I'm not messing with the unity level of the Nemesis at all. I'm just changing the input send, so it's just easily I know it's not going above what I want or below what I want when I put that in toe down. So I will say if I got more into doing on-the-fly feedback control, I'd probably use that instead of volume. But typically when I start messing with that, that's why these big knobs are on these guys. Nice and foot friendly, so I can just ramp up the feedback if need be. And then, yeah, I've got it on the speed because tremolo, I found I do MIDI clock for everything with the tremolo, so this basically turns into a subdivision. So down here is 1 to 1, 2 to 1, 3 to 1, 4 to 1, so I can just quickly rotate that, excuse me, get adjusted where I want. Then I have the decay level on here and the mix, and then I have mix and feedback on the Nemesis. I have speed, same with the Gemini, it's doing the speed control, and then I have the gain on the LA Lady. And then I got more stuff since then, but most of these I felt there wasn't really that particular much of a need to have a knob to quick adjust. Collider I would, but given the fact that I'm gotta flip the switch, I kind of preemptively need to know what I'm trying to adjust on the fly, so I've just never bothered. I have like a couple extra of these yet, I just never bothered throwing them on. Okay, I just see that the stream is going jacked up. Okay, I'm not sure what's going on. Let me check, guys. See if I can fix what's going on here. I don't know if you can hear me. We good now? Everybody hear me? You guys want to give a shout out? I'm trying to reset my computer here. I don't know what anybody's saying. I just brought up my old phone to check what that's doing. Okay. Apparently I'm working again. Sorry, I'm trying to get my computer back up now. Are we good so far? Am I over anybody's heads? Anybody got any ideas now? of anything they want to do personally. I'm really regretting dumping my water out. All the pretty flashing lights. Okay. I think we're good. I don't know what you guys missed. I can't remember where I was at. I guess I need to look over at the computer more often. Last thing I remember talking about was why Nemesis for volume. Oh, I was on the what's got knobs and all that. I got off there. I think that's basically it. That's basically how I'm using this whole setup. I do a little bit on the macros. Like I said, I tend to just stay in panel mode for the most part and just let that be able to switch stuff on the fly. So basically, Sunday morning, start with this song, have everything queued up. I got the wah going first thing, and then I'll kick it off, switch a few other things. I think that's controlling the tremolo right now, or the, yeah, tremolo. That thing's doing a multi-pedal control. And then I'll kick on the hold on the Ventris, probably at a bridge or something. And then kick on the gobs of Mesa distortion. That's really the gist of how I'm controlling things on Sunday. And then off to the next panel. You'll notice I'm doing the 2-foot switch method. I do have, you'll see here, this guy just barely fit in here. That's plugged into here. That's something I didn't get on. So the 2-button switch option on the Soulman is connected to here. So if I program this correctly, I think I have a whole preset dedicated to the Soulman on here. I just have to load it on. It'll do the 2 remote foot switch functions from here. And then this jack, like I said, I'll control my amp. This is actually a TRS to dual mono cable. You'll see the one's plugged in here for the POG, and then the other end goes up here to the foot switch for the amp. The only things I'm not using are the expression jacks, but I have an idea for that. It's going to be some DIY project in the future. I probably got enough space to squeeze it in here. Basically, I want to get Griffin Effects makes some switching relays that are smart enough to know that when you tap it, it's latching function, but when you hold it, it's momentary. So my idea is to use that wired up for TRS expression, but then when I tap it, it's probably going to be for the Ventris, so I have a dedicated switch for that. I'll tap it, it'll put the Ventris in hold, and then if I'm holding it, it'll just be momentary, and then when I release it, it'll shut off. And then I think the second jack will just be for the collider hold. Just the area where I think I would get the most use out of doing something like that. That's my brain at work when I'm thinking of ways to make an already super complicated board more complicated. So that's about it. Okay, the tuner. You guys want to know about the tuner? So with the tuner being in the effects loop, if I'm going to tune, that means I got to shut everything off up here, and I like to just be able to quick and be ready to tune and not have to worry about distortion and pitch modulation messing with the input for the tuner. So the Korg went back on the board as soon as I had more space, because originally this guy was here, that DIY pedal was here, the second Soulman was here, and then C4 was actually up here, and then I had the Gemini, the LA Lady, and the EQ2 sitting like that. So then I had a switch programmed on here to always bring up the tuner. It worked, but like I said, I had to make sure everything else was off so that I was just getting the best tuning accuracy. I suppose if I delved into using the extra input output, I could probably set it up. I've given minimal thought on doing that, but right now this works. It's a nice, small, accurate tuner. Never felt the need for a turbo tuner with that. So I've just, it's a little short and pain in the butt and very wobbly, but I'm not using it constantly. But that's basically what I do. I just like to be able to hit that and know that I'm good for tuning and not having any extra processing going in that could affect the tuning. So that's why the tuner's still on the board. When do we expect a Pog killer? That's one for Jesse. From my discussion, the processors the big pedals use are good for delay and reverb type stuff. They have a big enough RAM that they can handle 2.5 seconds, like on, or 2.6 seconds, whatever it is. So they handle that. These guys actually have faster processing, I believe it is, but the RAM is far more limited. That's why with the TrueSpring, you'll see there's an option in the editor for pre-delay. When you max that out, you don't hear much of a difference. That's why. There's not a whole lot of RAM in there to allow for delay type effects. That's why you don't see a small box delay. They're all in the big box. That processor is better suited for delay in that. This process is better suited for filters and distortions and modulation. So that being said, the processors in here are great for all that. As you know, with the poly mode on the C4, you get a little of that tremolo effect from the tracking, and it's slow. It's not as, I mean, the Pog's not super fast either, but it's a little slow. From what I've talked with Jesse and the other guys about, is that they really want to see a better processor that just does not exist yet before we get into a true polyphonic, lightning fast tracking type of effect. So I don't think I would expect that in the 1 series generation at this point. That might be in the next generation of stuff. But I'm not going to get into that because I don't know what the next generation of stuff is. I know what we're working on next, but I'm not telling. I think Roger would kick my butt. So I do know we've got some stuff coming up. I don't know if anything's going to make it out this year yet, but we've got some stuff that's coming. Let's see, where else? What other things we got here? I think that's caught up on questions. I don't know. Oh, John said you missed the LA Lady segment. Basically, what I was getting on with that is with this hub, it doesn't, if you're using cascade mode, you can't save the scene to where the one side of the external switch is off. It will always save and load with both sides of the pedal on. My way around that, I've found over the years, is to mess with the input-output routing. So I set I think I set it to CC50. So that's what this switch is for this preset. Set to CC50, and it swaps between a value of 0, which is default routing, and a value of 6, which is the cascade routing. So then when I do that, when this is off, it's in default, so it's only running through the left engine, which is my light distortion channel. And then when I kick that on, it brings in the second channel, which is a fuzz face style on top of, actually it would go the light distortion into the fuzz face. So not something you'd actually be able to do with an analog fuzz face, but you can with this. So that's my way around it. So then I can actually save the routing. So if I want both channels on when I load a scene, I'll flip that on and then save. If I want just the light channel on, I'll kick it back off and then save. Well, actually it's this. hub. I'll save there. And like I said, similar with here, the EQ2, it's got the 2 channels, but it'll always default with channel 1. So my way around that was just having 2 redundant presets, and then I flip-flop the EQ curves so that channel 1 on preset 1 is the flat line, and then channel 1 on preset 2 is my boost. So that's a little simpler to do. Trying to think now. Brad, I thought it was, had a question on how pedals all save in that. And I think I'm just going to scooch this guy out of the way. Do this. And for good measure, yes, I have duplicates of everything. It's nice when you, nice bonus of working for Source Audio. Almost everything. Some of the stuff that I don't have on this board, I don't have duplicates of. This would be example. And the reason I don't have that, because I know that question's coming next, is the C4 does everything this can do. So the C4 is what's on the board. Most of these I have on hand for the support page when I get emails and somebody says, hey, I can't get this preset to work, and I tell them, send me your backup file, and I can take a look and see if there's something just not programmed right, and then I can grab the pedal I need, hook it up, load their backup file on it, and voila, I can figure out what's going on. Or if it's over my head, I go, hey, Jesse. Now we're doing a Disney show. I have kids. So really these two work the same with saving presets. You know, you make all your adjustments up here on the pedal using the app, either the computer or the mobile app, and then hold that button to save. You'll get one flash and then a second flash. If you keep holding it down, it'll obviously a different enclosure, but basically the same deal. And then there's extension mode. If you use the app, you can turn on preset extension mode. The LEDs will light backwards, so when LED 1 is not lit and the other 3 are lit, you're on preset 5. And then when LEDs 1 is lit and the other 3 aren't, you're on preset 1. Same for this. I realize now I'm kind of out of frame on that, but I think you get the idea. There's just the EQ that was off. This is the old guy. So if you have the original modulations, Mercury, Lunar, Gemini, Vertigo, the original distortions, the Aftershock, the LA Lady, the Kingmaker, and then the True Spring, saving presets is all the same deal here. How easy is it to get to this? Nah. I should have pulled out a power supply. So when this is green, like you can see, I'll bring this just so you guys get a reference point because this has power. Yeah, you can see it. So when the main LED is green, you're in the first 3 presets. Keep that in mind. I have a quick switch method. So when first you have to turn the pedal off, turn on and hold the switch down. Now you see the LED's red. Default is 5 seconds. I think this was a Gibbs mode, as Rogers referred to it. I was the one who told him that's got to be faster. I was also the one that came up with the additional 3 presets. Not to brag. This was all before I worked for Source Audio. I mean, this is part of why Roger got a liking to me, and I became the default beta tester for a lot of stuff that you guys see long before I was working for Source Audio. I'll have to do a story on that, I guess, eventually, but we're already, what, 40 minutes in? Are we having more issues with okay. Might be my basement. I'm in my garage, in case you don't know. Yeah, that's where I do most of my work because I have no other room in my bi-level house. 4 kids. Yeah, there's no spare room. So yeah, anyways, red mode is the true preset mode. Now, saving, you can You see that right now it's a solid. If I move this, it'll start flashing, saying it's not in the default preset mode anymore. In preset mode, when this is on, okay, it won't do it because I didn't make an adjustment. Anyways, if I make an adjustment, I want to save in preset mode, I just hold down the foot switch and it'll make the adjustment. I don't want to do that right now because I don't want to mess with my presets. But then to get back out of preset mode, you got to shut it off, hold down the switch. Now I'm in regular mode. Regular mode can still be programmed. It's the only, and saved using the app. You can't save it with the foot switch like you can in red mode. The only thing it doesn't save is the 4 physical knob positions. Those will always default to whatever position they're at. So it's a pseudo preset, but all the information you can adjust in the app, so all the parametric EQ stuff, all the voicings and all that, that will save into here. So when you go to, I prefer to use the desktop app for most of this. So if I connect USB to here, you'll see the 3 different preset slots and then the 3 true preset slots. So I'll make all my adjustments in there, save them to each toggle switch position. So there's my 3 there, and then go to red mode, and then there's my 3 there. Originally, there was only a single preset in red mode, and that was with the modulators. These were the first to include the additional 2 presets. The modulators got an update down the road, thanks to me. Yeah, I'm so vain. So that's how presets work with that. Spectrum is a different animal. Spectrum, C4, and Ultrawave. You have to go into the editor. I'm going to cheat because I have my backup phone here. And because I can't remember on the top of my head how this all works. There's default mode, which is where you can save anything after you've adjusted by holding down the foot switch, kind of similar to this. But there's some different stuff that goes with all that. I'm bringing up the old phone that has a nice big crack in it. And the app just crashed. Stupid old phone. Okay, I can't use that because it's going to crash every time. Anyways, there's 3 options in there, but the knob will be as it is. And then default mode is where it loads the preset, and you can adjust the knob, and then it will flash, and then you can hold the switch to save. And then there's preset mode, which is there's no saving on the pedal. All the saving's got to be done with the app. So whatever's in here is in there to stay. You can make adjustments, but when you load out of that preset and go back to it, they won't be retained. So something to think about for that. Okay. Moving on, upload full scenes to community. Can't really get into that one because the current hub is not really able to support that, and I'm going to leave it at that. Basically, we need a new, keep in mind the hub is from SoundBlocks 2 era. The processors on these guys are way faster and everything, so this guy has a hard time keeping up. Might as well talk about this now. Ultrawave, not fully supported in the hub. It is and it isn't. If you guys haven't heard this before yet, we had this initial problem with the C4. There was just so much information going on, the hub couldn't handle it. Jesse had to go back and redo the hub firmware from scratch to where it would be able to handle all the info on the C4 and save it to a scene. Ultrawave meant he would have to do that again if it was even possible. I don't think there's anything he can do anymore at this point to make it work on this hardware. So the workaround we've had with Ultrawave is that instead of the hub holding all the preset information and sending it to the pedal and telling it what to load, the hub will point it to what preset and I kind of forgot, I skipped over this. I said there's 6 presets on here. There's 128 on these 3 with MIDI. So if you got a disaster area micro and you didn't want to get a hub, that is the quickest way to get MIDI and 128 presets out of these guys. Continuing. So basically the hub will point, say you want to use preset 120 on here. It